You're running a business, you're wondering how to handle accounts receivable. Well, the best way to handle them is not to have them in the first place. In other words, to get your clients, your customers to pay up and pay quickly. Joining us with a closer look at the steps you can take to avoid being owed major amounts of money, Michael Lubavik, who is the president of Canadian Corporate Legal Services and a frequent contributor here on Cable Pulse 24.
And good morning to you, Cable Pulse 24.
Well, and,
how are you?
All of me and all the other 23 Cable Pulses, thank you. So, dun-dun-dun, sorry. All
We're
right.
wired today, folks.
Let us compose ourselves. And I guess you don't want to get into a situation where you have somebody who, let's say, orders a lot of your service or product. You think, great, I've hit the jackpot, but it isn't a jackpot if, of course, they have no intention of paying for any of this
You do
stuff.
want to get in that situation. You just hope you're going to get paid for it. So, I mean, Justin's right. I mean, ideally, if you don't have any receivables at all and get cash on the barrelhead, that's great, but not everybody can do that. So the next best thing is to make sure that you put yourself in the best situation possible when you're dealing with people and you're extending credit. I want to go back to square one. We really discussed this last fall, but I think it certainly is worthy of mentioning again. And the biggest sin that I see, you know, among businesses when it comes to accounts receivable, and it totally amazes me, if you're doing this out there, don't feel bad, you're not alone. People don't really know who they're dealing with. It just boggles the mind how often I see this, that they will ship out $15,000, $20,000 worth of goods to somebody, you know, and it's Fred's Furniture. We don't really know if his name actually is Fred or it was his great-great-grandfather. Is it a limited company? What's the deal here? People don't know that, and it's really very important to know. Don't be shy. Make sure you have some forms that they fill out so that they participate in your information system, so that they can't turn around to you later on and say, well, look, I mean, I can't help it if you got it wrong. I mean, we gave you the information. I never told you Fred's. But then you can go, well, no, Fred, it's right here. Here's your name. You said Fred's. And it turns out that you are, you know, Frederick the Great Incorporated, which is something completely different. So you've got to make sure that you've got something down there. And then what happens if, in fact, it turns out that you don't have it right because you didn't get the proper information, he's neglected to tell you about it, that leaves him open, or the principals of the company open to being sued personally, which gives you some security should something go wrong with the company. The corporate veil is there to protect the honest, forthright businessman. Okay, it's not there to protect somebody who's pulling all sorts of shenanigans on you. And so make sure that you've got that right. You've got to let your people know that. There's always this tension between the credit department and the sales department.
Where the sales department obviously wants to rack up as many sales as it can, is eager to do this. The credit department presumably is somewhat more prudent and less likely to.
The flag of the sales department is a big dollar bill with the logo, just ship it, which doesn't always work out. So, you know, you've got to be careful about that.
Getting those pieces of information, the kind of crucial stuff that you mentioned with regard to the way the company is set up, I mean, is that something that any reputable business would not have any problem divulging as soon as you ask for it? Whereas, I mean, is that sort of a warning flag if they don't?
They wouldn't, but sometimes it's somewhat misleading. Sometimes they will give you an acronym for the company. Sometimes they'll give you a shortened version. That's why it's important to get as much information as you can. Get a letterhead, get a purchase order, get a business card, see how they represent themselves. Does he say this is George Matthews from... excuse me, George Matthews, if you're really out there, I just pulled that out of the air. Is this John Smith? Okay, now I got a whole bunch of them after me. Or part of an Inc. corporation, or is it just something that's... I mean, the truth of the matter is that sometimes it can be very misleading. We sometimes do searches with the Ministry of Consumer and Commercial Relations, which is how you find out who is what at the company, and sometimes we can't find that company. And it has a lot to do, and folks, you'll realize this if you're working on the net at all or if you're computer-oriented, with the spacing sometimes of the words. Is there a period after the letter? Is there not a period after? Is there a comma? Is there a spacing? I just spent $150 with the ministry yesterday trying to find a company's name that consisted of 4 letters, and I could not, for the life of me, find it because the way they had it on their bank check was spaced differently the way they had it. Just a coincidence?
Yeah. Well,
maybe. I don't know.
Unfortunately, we're out of time for this particular session, but a lot of wise counsel there. Michael Lubavik, Canadian Corporate Legal Services, thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much.